Lightning split the sky above Chicago's south side, turning the night electric white. Through sheets of rain, a boy ran barefoot down dark streets, lungs burning, tears mixing with storm water on his face. 12-year-old Liam Martinez didn't stop when glass cut his feet. He didn't stop when his shirt clung to his skin like a second layer of fear. He ran because the sound of his mother's screams still echoed in his head, and because the men in their apartment had said things that made his blood turn cold. "Your mama's debt is due, kid. And we always collect." Ahead, iron gates rose from the darkness like the entrance to hell itself. Armed men in black suits materialized from the shadows, rifles raised. "Stop right there," one guard barked, finger on the trigger. Liam skidded to a halt, chest heaving. "Please, please, they're beating my mom. She's going to die." The guards exchanged looks. Kids didn't just wander into Dante Moretti's compound. Not unless they had a death wish. "Turn around, kid. This ain't." "What's all this noise?" A voice cut through the rain like a blade through silk. From the mansion's entrance, a figure emerged. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair slicked back. Dante Moretti moved like a panther, each step deliberate, dangerous. Even the storm seemed to quiet when he spoke. His cold eyes fixed on the trembling boy. "Who are you?" Liam's voice cracked. "Liam Martinez. Please, sir, men came to our apartment. They're hurting my mom over money she owes." I didn't know where else to go." Dante's jaw tightened. "Martinez." The name hung in the air. "Your mother's name?" "Pamela. Pamela Martinez." The world stopped spinning. Rain continued to fall, but Dante couldn't hear it anymore. All he heard was a woman's laughter from 13 years ago, warm and bright, before she disappeared like smoke. His right-hand man, Carlos, whispered urgently, "Boss, did he say?" "I heard him." Dante's voice had changed, dropping to something raw and unguarded. He knelt in the rain, meeting the boy's terrified eyes. "Where is she, Liam?" "Ashland Avenue. Building 7, Apartment 4C. Please, they won't stop hitting her." Dante rose, transformation instant. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "Carlos, get the cars. Now." "Boss, we don't." "Now." As the gates opened and thunder rumbled above them, one question hung in the air. Why does a mafia boss kneel in the rain for a stranger's child? Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more powerful stories. Stay tuned, because tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. The convoy tore through Chicago's rain-slicked streets like black sharks cutting through dark water. 3 SUVs, engines roaring, headlights slicing through the storm. Inside the lead vehicle, Dante sat rigid in the back seat, jaw clenched so tight it could crack teeth. Beside him, Liam trembled, soaked to the bone, bare feet leaving wet prints on the leather, glass still embedded in his skin. The boy's breathing came in short, panicked gasps, fogging the window he pressed his forehead against. Dante's hands moved without conscious thought, clenching, unclenching around the gun in his lap. Checking the chamber. Releasing it. Checking again. A ritual born from 20 years of violence, muscle memory that had kept him alive when softer men died. He should be thinking tactically. Guard positions. Exit routes. How many men Victor would have there? Instead, all he could think about was a woman's laugh. Pamela's laugh, 13 years ago, when she'd convinced him to dance in his penthouse at 3 a.m. with no music playing. When she'd made him believe, just for a moment, that he could be someone other than what he was. How far? Dante's voice cut through the silence. Carlos, driving, glanced at the GPS. 3 minutes, boss. 3 minutes. Liam's mother had 3 minutes left before. She's strong, Dante said quietly, not sure if he was talking to the boy or himself. Your mother. She's always been strong. Liam turned from the window, eyes red-rimmed. You know her. The question hung there, loaded with implications neither of them understood yet. I did. Once. Did she? Liam's voice cracked. Did she leave you too? Dante's hand finally stilled on the gun. He looked at the boy, really looked at him, and saw it clearly now. The shape of the eyes. The set of the jaw. The way he bit his lip when he was scared, just like Dante did. No, Dante said softly. I think maybe I left her first. Without meaning to. The SUV screeched to a halt outside a rundown apartment building. Graffiti-covered walls, broken security door hanging crooked, lights flickering in the hallway beyond. Building 7. Ashland Avenue. The kind of place where people learned not to hear screaming. But Dante heard it. They all heard it. A woman's voice, hoarse from crying out, begging for mercy that wasn't coming. Dante was out of the vehicle before it fully stopped, weapon drawn, Carlos and 4 armed men flanking him. His Italian leather shoes splashed through puddles mixed with God knows what as he crossed the broken pavement. The apartment door, 4C, hung crooked on its hinges, already kicked in. Inside, furniture overturned like a tornado had passed through. A lamp shattered on the floor, family photos crushed under boot prints, a child's homework scattered and torn. And there, in the center of the destruction, Pamela Martinez lay on the floor. Her lip was split, blood streaming down her chin. One eye was swelling shut. Bruises were already forming on her arms where hands had grabbed too hard. She was curled on her side, trying to protect herself, while 2 men stood over her like vultures over carrion. Please, she gasped, voice raw. I'll get the money. Just 1 more week. The taller thug, shaved head, neck tattoos, knuckles bloody, grabbed her by the hair and yanked her head back. Victor Russo don't do extensions, sweetheart. You borrow from the Russo family, you pay the Russo family. And when you can't pay with cash. The gunshot exploded through the apartment like thunder. The thug screamed, dropping Pamela as his kneecap shattered. He hit the floor, clutching his leg, blood pooling beneath him. His partner spun, hand diving for the gun tucked in his waistband, but Dante was already there. Faster, colder, 20 years of survival instincts kicking in. The barrel of Dante's pistol pressed against the man's forehead before his fingers even touched his weapon. Move, Dante said quietly, and you die. The second thug froze. His eyes widened as recognition dawned, real, primal terror flooding his features. Moretti. Jesus Christ, we didn't know. Victor said she was nobody. Get out. Dante's voice could have frozen fire. Each word was measured, controlled, more terrifying than any scream could be. Tell Victor Russo that Pamela Martinez is under my protection now. Tell him if he touches her again, if he even thinks her name, I will burn his entire organization to ash and scatter it in the fucking lake. Do you understand me? The thug nodded frantically, already backing toward the door, dragging his screaming partner with him. They left blood trails on the worn carpet, stumbling over broken furniture in their rush to escape. Carlos and his men stayed positioned at the door, weapons ready, watching the thugs flee down the stairwell. The apartment fell silent except for Pamela's ragged breathing. Dante lowered his weapon slowly, exhaling a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Then he turned. Pamela looked up from the floor, vision blurry through tears and swelling. She blinked, trying to focus, trying to make sense of the figure standing over her. Tall, broad-shouldered, expensive suit soaked with rain. When her eyes finally cleared enough to see his face, everything inside her shattered. "Dante," she whispered. His name on her lips, after 13 years of silence, hit him harder than any bullet ever had. She looked different. Older, yes. Tired in a way that went deeper than the beating. Her hair was shorter, streaked with silver at the temples. The light in her eyes, that defiant spark he'd fallen in love with, was dimmed by years of struggling alone. But it was her. God help him, it was still her. Behind them, in the doorway, Liam stood frozen. His eyes moved between his mother on the floor and the man who'd just saved her. The man who moved through violence like breathing. The man whose cold efficiency was somehow more terrifying than the thug's brutal chaos. The man whose dark eyes, now that Liam was really looking, matched his own exactly. Dante knelt beside Pamela, holstering his weapon. His hand hesitated, hovering over her shoulder, unsure if touch was permission he still had. "Can you stand?" His voice was softer now, stripped of the lethal edge. She nodded, wincing as he helped her up. Her legs nearly gave out, and Dante caught her, steadying her against him. For one brief moment, they stood like that, her leaning into him, his arm around her waist, 13 years collapsing into nothing. "We need to get her checked out," Carlos said from the doorway. "Possible concussion, broken ribs." "I know." Dante's jaw tightened. "Bring the car around. We're taking her home. Hospital would be home, Carlos. My home. Where I can protect her." Pamela pulled back slightly, looking up at him through her one good eye. "Dante, you don't have to." "Yes," he interrupted quietly. "I do." He lifted her carefully, one arm under her knees, one supporting her back, and carried her toward the door. Liam pressed himself against the wall to let them pass, staring. As they descended the stairs, dawn was breaking over the city. The storm was passing, leaving everything washed clean and glistening. The convoy sat waiting, engines running, doors already open. Dante settled Pamela in the back seat, Liam climbing in beside her. The boy immediately took his mother's hand, squeezing tight, his other hand wiping tears from his face. As the SUV pulled away from that broken building, away from poverty and violence and desperation, none of them spoke. But in the rearview mirror, Dante watched Liam watching him. And in that moment, separated by leather seats and 13 years of secrets, father and son recognized each other without understanding why. Dawn light crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Dante's mansion, turning everything gold. The kind of light that made expensive things look even more expensive. Crystal chandeliers catching and scattering it like diamonds, marble floors gleaming like mirrors, artwork worth more than most people made in a lifetime hanging casually on walls. Pamela sat in the enormous kitchen, an ice pack pressed against her swollen face, watching her son sleep on a leather couch in the adjoining living room. The couch probably cost more than their annual rent. Hell, the throw pillows probably did. She'd forgotten what silence sounded like. Real silence. Not the kind punctuated by sirens and shouting neighbors and the constant hum of anxiety. This was the silence of safety, of thick walls and armed guards and money insulating you from the world. It made her want to scream. "Coffee!" Dante's voice made her flinch. She'd been so lost in thought she hadn't heard him enter. He stood in the doorway, hair still damp from a shower, dressed in fresh clothes. black slacks, white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No weapon visible, but she knew he had one somewhere. Men like Dante were never truly unarmed. Yes. Thank you. He poured 2 cups from an espresso machine that looked like it belonged in a spaceship, adding cream to hers without asking. He remembered how she took it. After 13 years, he still remembered. He set the cup in front of her but didn't sit. Just stood across the kitchen island, arms crossed, jaw tight. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. 13 years, Pam. She flinched at the old nickname. No one had called her that since before. I had my reasons. What reasons could possibly? His voice rose, and he stopped himself, glancing toward the sleeping boy. When he spoke again, his tone was lower but no less intense. You vanished. No note. No call. I searched for months. That's exactly why I left. Her voice trembled but held firm. She set down the ice pack, meeting his eyes despite the pain it caused. One of her eyes was swollen nearly shut, but the other burned with something that looked like defiance. You were ascending, Dante, taking over territories. The violence was escalating every day. Every week it was someone new trying to kill you, someone new you had to kill first. I couldn't. Couldn't what? He gripped the edge of the counter. Couldn't trust me to keep you safe? I couldn't bring a child into that world. The words fell like stones into still water. Dante's eyes narrowed. What? Pamela's hands shook around her coffee cup, and she set it down before she dropped it. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I was pregnant when I left. 8 weeks. The words hit him like a physical blow. His knuckles went white against the dark granite countertop. For several seconds, he just stared at her, his mind trying to process what she'd said, trying to do the math that couldn't possibly add up the way his heart was suddenly screaming it did. You're telling me Liam is your son. Absolute silence. Outside, birds were singing their morning songs, oblivious to the earthquake happening inside this kitchen. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. Water dripped from the espresso machine. The refrigerator hummed. And Dante's world shattered into 1,000 pieces. 12 years. His voice came out strangled, barely recognizable. You kept my son from me for 12 years. I kept him alive, she shot back, tears spilling down her cheeks, stinging the cuts on her face. Look at this place, Dante. Look at it. She gestured around them, at the armed guards visible through the windows, at the security monitors mounted discreetly in corners, at the bulletproof glass, at the fortress he'd built around himself. Guards. Guns. Surveillance. You sleep with a weapon under your pillow. You have escape routes planned from every room. What kind of childhood is that? What kind of life? You don't get to make that choice alone. His control finally cracked, voice rising. He's my son, and I'm his mother. She stood, defiant despite the injuries, despite the way standing made her ribs scream. I made the only choice I could. You think I wanted to raise him in a 1-bedroom apartment? Working 3 jobs? Dodging landlords and loan sharks who don't care that we have nothing left? Her voice broke, but she pushed through it. I did it so he could have a chance at normal, at safe, so he could go to school without worrying that his father wouldn't come home, so he could sleep without hearing gunshots, so he could be a child, Dante. Just a child, not a target, not a weakness someone could exploit. Not a mine, Dante finished quietly. Not mine. The fight went out of her all at once. She sank back into the chair, covering her face with her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Dante turned away, breathing hard, trying to control the storm raging inside him. His hands gripped the counter so hard he was surprised the granite didn't crack. 12 years. 12 years of his son's life. First steps, first words, first day of school, first everything. Gone. Stolen. Lost. On the couch, Liam stirred, murmuring something in his sleep. Both adults froze, watching him, but he didn't wake. Just shifted slightly and settled again, one hand tucked under his cheek. Dante's voice came out as barely a whisper. "He has your eyes." Pamela looked up, confused. "What?" "Your eyes." "That's what I told myself when I saw him at the gate. He has your eyes." He turned back to face her, and his expression was raw, all the armor stripped away. "But he doesn't. He has mine. How did I not see it immediately?" "Because you weren't looking for a son." Her voice was gentler now, tired. "You were looking for ghosts. For threats. For the next war. You weren't looking for this." Dante moved around the island slowly, pulling out the chair beside her. He sat heavily, like a much older man, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked defeated. "What's his favorite color?" he asked quietly. "Blue. Like the ocean," he says, even though he's never seen it. "His favorite food? Pizza. Pepperoni. Extra cheese. And he picks off the mushrooms if I try to sneak them on." "Does he play sports?" "Basketball. He's fast. Really fast. The other kids can barely keep up with him. Smart. Top of his class. Especially math. He can do calculations in his head that take me a calculator to figure out." Dante closed his eyes. Every detail was a gift and a knife at the same time. 12 years of details he should have known, should have been there for. "Does he know about me?" Pamela shook her head. "I told him his father died before he was born. A car accident. I didn't know how to explain that his father was alive, but we couldn't be with him. That seemed crueler somehow. So he thinks I'm dead. He thought you were dead. Until last night, when a dead man saved his mother." Dante opened his eyes, looking at the boy again. "What do we tell him?" "The truth," Pamela said softly. "He deserves that much." "But Dante," she reached out, hesitating, then placed her hand over his. "If you do this, you can't halfway do it. You can't be his father when it's convenient and Dante Moretti when it's not. You have to choose." "I already have." His hand turned over, fingers lacing with hers. "The moment he said your name at my gate, I already chose." They sat like that for a long moment, hands joined, 13 years of separation and pain and longing existing in the space between their fingers. In the living room, Liam's eyes opened. He'd been awake for the last 5 minutes, listening to every word. His hand moved to his chest, feeling his heart pounding, his mind racing. "Liam is your son." The words echoed in his head, rearranging everything he thought he knew about the world, about himself, about the man sitting in the kitchen with his mother. His father. Alive. Real. Dangerous and powerful and holding his mother's hand like she was the most precious thing in the world. Liam closed his eyes again, pretending to sleep, letting the truth wash over him in waves. Everything had just changed. Everything. 2 weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality. Pamela's injuries healed slowly, the bruises fading from purple to yellow-green, the swelling around her eye receding until she could see clearly again. She watched the transformation in the mirror each morning, tracking her body's recovery while something else inside her remained broken, waiting. Liam explored the mansion like an archaeologist discovering a lost civilization. 30 rooms, he'd counted. 30 rooms for one man who, until 2 weeks ago, had lived alone. The boy wandered wide hallways lined with art he didn't understand, peeked into libraries with books in languages he couldn't read, discovered a gym that looked like it belonged in a professional training facility. And everywhere he went, he felt eyes watching him. Not the guards, though they were always there, silent shadows in black suits. No, these were different eyes. Darker, more cautious. Dante watched from doorways, watched from the top of staircases, watched through windows as Liam threw a basketball at the hoop Carlos had installed in the driveway. Always watching, never approaching. Like he was afraid to get too close. Like Liam was something wild that might bolt if startled. It was Liam who finally broke the stalemate. On the 8th day, he found Dante in the study, a room dominated by a massive mahogany desk and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Dante sat at the desk, papers spread before him, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked almost normal, almost like someone's regular father. "Do you know how to play chess?" Liam asked from the doorway. Dante looked up, surprise flickering across his features before he could hide it. "Yes. Will you teach me?" Something in Dante's chest cracked open. "I'd like that." The marble chessboard sat between them on a small table by the window. Afternoon light streamed through, catching the crystal pieces, white for Liam, black for Dante. Each piece was hand-carved, probably worth more than Liam's entire school. "Chess is about seeing 10 moves ahead," Dante explained, his voice taking on a different quality, softer, more patient. "It's not about the pieces you have. It's about what you do with them. Like life." Liam moved a pawn tentatively. Dante paused, knight hovering over the board. "Yes, exactly like life." They played in silence for a while, Dante explaining strategies as they emerged. Control the center, protect your king, and know when to sacrifice. Liam absorbed it all, his mind working faster than Dante expected. The boy made mistakes, yes, but he learned from each one, didn't repeat them. "You're a quick study," Dante said, capturing Liam's bishop. "Mom says I get that from my dad." The words hung in the air between them. "She says he was smart. Before he died." Dante's hand stilled on his queen. "Liam, I heard you. That morning. In the kitchen." The boy's eyes met his, direct, unflinching, so much older than 12. "I heard everything." The world narrowed to just the two of them, the chessboard forgotten. "How long have you known?" Dante's voice was barely above a whisper. "Since that morning. I don't know what to do with it." Liam's fingers traced the edge of a captured pawn. "Are you really my dad?" The question was so simple, so devastating. Dante had faced down rival bosses, survived assassination attempts, and built an empire from blood and bullets. But this 12-year-old boy asking one simple question unmade him completely. "Yes," Dante said. "I am. Why did you leave us?" "I didn't know you existed. Your mother." He stopped, choosing words carefully. "Your mother made a choice to protect you. From me. From my world. I would have made the same choice if I'd known. But you know now." "Yes. So what happens now?" Dante looked at this boy, his son, and saw a crossroads. One path led back to the life he'd always known. The other led somewhere he'd never been brave enough to go. "What would you like to happen?" Dante asked. Liam considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. "I'd like to learn more chess. And maybe," he hesitated, "maybe you could teach me other things too." "Like what?" "Like how to be strong. Mom tries, but she's scared all the time. She tries to hide it, but I know. I want to learn how not to be scared." Dante's throat tightened. Being strong doesn't mean not being scared, Liam. It means being scared and doing what needs to be done anyway. "Is that what you do? Every day?" The self-defense lesson happened in the gym 3 days later. Liam had asked, and Dante had agreed, though Pamela had protested until Dante promised. No weapons, just basics. "Fist like this," Dante demonstrated. Thumb outside the fingers. If you tuck your thumb inside, you'll break it on the first punch. Liam mimicked the position. Dante's hands, scarred, calloused, deadly, gently adjusted his son's grip. "Good. Now, power doesn't come from your arm. It comes from your legs, through your core, then your shoulder, then your fist. Your whole body is the weapon, not just your hand." They practiced on the heavy bag, Dante standing behind Liam, hands guiding his shoulders, showing him how to pivot, how to breathe, how to follow through. "Why do you need to know this?" Liam asked between combinations. "You have guns. Guards. Because knowing you can protect yourself, even without weapons, even without help, that's real power. Everything else is just tools." "Did your dad teach you this?" Dante's hands stilled. "No. I learned the hard way. On the streets. From people who wanted to hurt me." He turned Liam to face him. "I'm teaching you so you never have to learn that way." Something passed between them, an understanding, a connection being forged punch by punch. The thunderstorm came on the 13th night, rolling across Chicago like God's anger. Lightning turned the sky white, thunder shaking the mansion's windows. Rain hammered the roof like bullets. Dante was in his study, reviewing security reports, when he heard it, a small sound from down the hall. Crying, muffled behind a door. He found Liam sitting on his bed, knees pulled to his chest, trying to control his breathing. Each thunder crack made him flinch. "Liam!" The boy looked up, embarrassed to be caught. "I'm fine. It's stupid. I'm 12, I shouldn't. Mind if I sit?" Liam shook his head. Dante sat on the edge of the bed, leaving space between them, not crowding. "I don't like storms either," Dante said quietly. "Really? Really? When I was 8, I was caught outside during one. No shelter, nowhere to go. The lightning struck a tree 20 feet from me. Split it right down the middle." He was quiet for a moment. "I can still smell the burning wood sometimes." "That's terrifying." It was. Still is. But I learned something that night. "What?" "That being afraid doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The only people who aren't afraid are the ones who don't understand danger." They sat in silence as the storm raged outside. Slowly, tentatively, Liam leaned against Dante's shoulder. Dante's arm came around him carefully, like holding something infinitely precious and infinitely fragile. "Mr. Moretti?" Liam's voice was small. "You can call me Dante." "Okay, Dante." The boy paused, gathering courage. "Are you my dad?" The question he'd asked before, but different now. Before it was seeking information. Now it was seeking permission. Dante's throat tightened. Would that be okay with you? Liam was quiet for a long moment, feeling the solid warmth of this dangerous man who'd saved his mother, who taught him chess and how to throw a punch, who sat with him through storms. Mom says you're dangerous. I am. But you saved her. I did. Then yeah. Liam nodded against his shoulder. That would be okay. Dante's arm tightened slightly, his eyes closing. 12 years. 12 years lost, but maybe not all of them. Maybe there was still time. They sat like that as the storm slowly passed, father and son, finding each other in the darkness. It was the moment Pamela appeared in the doorway, drawn by mother's instinct, that she saw them. Her son curled against the man she'd loved and left, both of them silent, both of them at peace. The family she'd never let herself imagine. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she started to back away, to give them this moment. That's when Carlos burst into the hallway, laptop in hand, his face white. "Boss," he said urgently. "We have a situation." The spell shattered. Dante's eyes opened, immediately alert, immediately cold. He gently extracted himself from Liam, standing. "What is it?" Carlos glanced at Pamela, at Liam, uncertain. "You need to see this. Now." They gathered in Dante's study. Dante, Pamela, Carlos. Liam followed despite his mother's protests, something in his gut telling him this concerned him. Carlos opened the laptop. On the screen, a video player loaded, then began. The image was dark, grainy. Then it focused, and Pamela's scream shattered the silence. Liam, tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse. His face was bruised, eyes swollen, lips split. Tears streaked through the dirt on his cheeks. Behind him, concrete walls, rust-stained barrels, the industrial decay of Chicago's abandoned districts. A man's voice, cold and mocking. "Hello, Moretti. Remember me? You took my men, my money, my reputation. You embarrassed me in front of the entire city." The camera panned slightly, showing Victor Russo's face, thin, cruel, smiling like a snake. "So now I take what you love. Fair trade, don't you think?" He grabbed Liam's hair, yanking his head back. The boy whimpered but didn't scream. "Your little boy's brave. I'll give him that. Let's see how long that lasts." Russo leaned close to the camera. "Midnight. Pier 9. Come alone, or the boy dies screaming. And Moretti, I know you'll bring an army. I'm counting on it. This is going to be fun." The screen went black. Pamela collapsed to her knees, choking back sobs, hands over her mouth. Liam stood frozen, staring at the image of himself that couldn't be real, couldn't be possible. Dante's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went utterly, terrifyingly cold. "When?" His voice was deadly calm. 2 hours ago, Carlos said, while you were teaching him chess. "How?" Carlos looked sick. "Infiltrator. The new gardener we hired last week. Found him dead in the greenhouse. They must have grabbed Liam during his afternoon walk. But it was impossible. Liam was standing right there in the room with them." Then Liam understood. His stomach dropped. "That's not me." Everyone turned. "That video, it's old footage. Or faked. Has to be. I'm right here." Dante's eyes widened slightly. He looked at the laptop again, then at Liam, mind racing. Then he understood too, and the cold in his eyes became something worse. Something lethal. It's not a video of Liam, Dante said quietly. It's a promise. A blueprint. This is what he's going to do if I don't comply. No, Pamela gasped. No, we leave. Tonight. We disappear. He has my face now, Dante interrupted, still calm, still controlled. He's seen Liam. He knows what matters to me. Running won't stop this. He stood slowly, like a predator uncoiling. Carlos. Get everyone. Full arsenal. Boss, he said alone. I don't care what he said. Dante's voice could have cut steel. He threatened my son. Pamela's scream cut through the study like broken glass. She lunged forward, grabbing Dante's arm with both hands, nails digging into his shirt. You can't go into this blind, Dante. Please. He'll kill you the moment you step inside. Dante's expression didn't change, but when he looked at her, the ice in his gaze melted just enough to show the man underneath, the one who'd danced with her at 3 a.m., who'd promised her the world before she'd run from it. If I don't go, he kills Liam. Then give him what he wants. Her voice broke. Desperate. Money. Territory. Your entire empire. I don't care. Just don't make this about pride. This isn't about pride. His voice dropped to something softer, more dangerous. This is about making sure no one ever touches him again. That no one ever touches you again. That you can sleep without wondering if tomorrow is the day they come back. He gently extracted her hands from his arm, holding them for a moment. I couldn't protect you 13 years ago because I didn't know you needed protecting. I won't make that mistake twice. Carlos cleared his throat. Boss, we can position snipers around the docks. Cut the power. Use smoke grenades. Make it chaos. Get in and extract the target. Dante raised a hand, cutting him off. No, boss. He expects me to come armed. Expects an army. He's planned for that. Dante moved to the window, looking out at the darkening sky. Storm clouds were gathering again, like the universe was preparing for what came next. So I'll come alone. You'll die, Pamela whispered. Maybe. He turned back to face them. But if I do nothing, he dies first. And I've done a lot of terrible things in my life, Pam. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on blood and fear. But I won't, I can't, let my son pay for my sins. Liam, who'd been silent until now, stepped forward. His voice was small but steady. I'll go with you. No, Dante and Pamela said simultaneously. He wants me. Let me. No. Dante crossed to him, kneeling so they were eye to eye. You're 12 years old. This is not your fight. It's mine. But listen to me, Mijo. The endearment slipped out naturally, unconsciously. Men like Victor Russo, they don't understand love. They don't understand family. They only understand power and violence. And the only way to speak their language is to show them what happens when they threaten what's mine. Liam's eyes filled with tears. What if you don't come back? Dante's hand cupped his son's face, thumb brushing away the tears. Then you take care of your mother. You finish school. You live a good life, a better life than mine. You don't follow me into the darkness. Promise me. I promise. The words came out choked. But you have to promise me something too. What? Come back. Just come back. Dante pulled him close, holding him tight for several heartbeats. Over Liam's shoulder, his eyes met Pamela's, and in that look was 13 years of love and loss and longing, all compressed into a single moment. "I promise to try," he whispered. "That's all I can give you." The armory was in the basement, a room most people didn't know existed. Steel door, biometric lock, reinforced walls. Inside, enough weapons to start a small war. Carlos and his team moved with practiced efficiency, loading magazines, checking sights, strapping on tactical vests. The sound of metal on metal, slides racking, Velcro tearing filled the space. Dante stood at the weapons table, methodically checking each piece. His favorite Glock, the one that had saved his life in Mexico City. Backup piece for his ankle holster. Knife strapped to his thigh. He moved through the ritual automatically, muscle memory from 20 years of staying alive. "You sure about this, boss?" Carlos asked, loading hollow points into a magazine. "Going in alone is suicide." "I won't be alone. You'll be there," he said. I know what he said. But Victor's weakness is his arrogance. He thinks I'll follow his rules because he has leverage. He's wrong. Dante pulled on his tactical vest, buckled it tight. "You position the team in 3 locations: north, south, and east. Stay dark. Stay silent. I go in the main entrance, unarmed where he can see. The moment I have eyes on Liam, the moment I know he's alive, you light that warehouse up like the 4th of July. And if it's a trap? If Liam's not even there?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Then we burn it down anyway. And we don't stop until Victor Russo is ash." He reached for his jacket, bulletproof we've hidden beneath expensive Italian fabric, and paused. From his desk drawer, he pulled out a photograph. Old, creased, edges worn from handling. Him and Pamela at Navy Pier, years ago. She was laughing, her head thrown back, his arms around her waist. They looked impossibly young. Impossibly happy. He tucked it into his inner pocket, over his heart. "Boss." Carlos's voice was careful. "If this goes sideways." "It won't. But if it does, what do you want me to tell them?" Dante looked up, eyes hard. "Tell them I kept my promise. Tell them I chose them over everything else. Tell them," his voice caught, "tell them they were worth it." The goodbyes happened in stages, each one harder than the last. Carlos first, pulling Dante aside in the hallway. "Been with you 11 years, boss. Best years of my life. Don't talk like it's over. Just in case." Carlos extended his hand. Dante took it, then pulled him into a brief embrace. "Take care of them if I don't make it back." "You know I will." Next was Liam. The boy sat on his bed, trying to be brave, failing. Dante stood in the doorway, memorizing the sight of him. This son he'd only known for 2 weeks but would die for without hesitation. "I want to say something," Dante started, then stopped. "What did you say to a child you just found and might lose again? How did you compress 12 years of missed birthdays and bedtime stories into one moment?" "I know," Liam said quietly. "You don't have to." But Dante crossed the room, sat on the edge of the bed. His hand hovered over Liam's head, then settled gently in his hair. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. For your first steps, your first day of school, all of it. I'm sorry your mother had to do it alone. But I'm here now, and I'm going to make sure you have a future. A real one. Safe. I don't care about safe. I just want you." The words broke something inside Dante's chest. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to his son's. I'm coming back, Mijo. I promise I'm coming back. You said you'd try. That's not the same as promising. Then I'm changing my promise. I'm coming back. Because I just found you, and I'm not ready to let you go. They stayed like that for a long moment. Father and son, separated by 13 years and 2 weeks, connected by blood and something stronger. When Dante finally pulled away, Liam grabbed his hand. Dad! First time he'd said it. First time that word had been directed at him. Yeah. Kill them all. Dante's smile was cold, predatory. That's the plan. Last was Pamela. She waited in the foyer, arms wrapped around herself, watching as Carlos and the team loaded into vehicles outside. You don't have to do this, she said when Dante appeared, fully armed, every inch the man she'd run from 13 years ago. Yes, I do. We could run. All 3 of us. Disappear. Start over somewhere he can't find us. He'd find us. Men like Victor always do. And next time, I might not be there fast enough. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, familiar after all these years. This ends tonight, Pam. One way or another. If you go down this road again, you'll lose us anyway. Her voice trembled, tears threatening. Liam needs his father, not another warlord, not another killer. He needs. I know what he needs. Dante's gaze softened for just a heartbeat. And when this is over, that's what I'll be. I promise. You can't promise that. You can't just stop being who you are. Watch me. He reached out, cupping her face like he had 100 times before, thumb brushing her cheek. I spent 13 years building an empire of fear. I'll spend the next 13 building something better. For him. For you. For us, if you'll let me. Dante. But first I have to make sure we have those 13 years. And the only way to do that is to end this. Tonight. He leaned in, pressed his lips to her forehead, gentle, reverent, goodbye and promise all at once. Then he was gone, striding out into the night, into the rain that had started falling again, into the convoy of black SUVs that would take him to Pier 9. Pamela stood in the doorway, one hand pressed to where his lips had been, watching the taillights disappear into darkness. Liam appeared beside her, taking her hand. He'll come back, the boy said with a 12-year-old certainty. How do you know? Because he promised. And dads don't break promises. Pamela wished she could believe that. Wished she could believe in happy endings and men who changed and love that conquered violence. But she'd lived too long in the real world to believe in fairy tales. All she could do was wait. And pray. Midnight approached like an executioner's footsteps. Slow, inevitable, final. The convoy cut through Chicago's streets, rain hammering the windshields, wipers working overtime. Dante sat in the back of the lead SUV, silent, focused, going through the plan one more time in his head. Enter through the main door. Hands visible. Gun holstered but accessible. Assess the space. Exits. Cover. Number of hostiles. Locate Liam. Confirm he's alive. Signal Carlos. Then all hell breaks loose. Simple. Clean. 1,000 ways it could go wrong. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Moretti. Victor Russo's voice. Smug and satisfied. Just making sure you're on your way. Wouldn't want you to be late for our reunion. I'll be there. Alone. As requested. Good. Because I have eyes everywhere, my friend. I see even a shadow of your little army, and I start sending your boy back to you in pieces. Starting with his fingers, then his toes, then... I'll be alone, Dante interrupted, voice flat. You have my word. Your word. Victor laughed. From a man who's broken every promise he's ever made. But fine. Midnight. Moretti. Don't be late. The line went dead. Carlos glanced at him in the rear-view mirror. He's lying. He's going to kill you both the moment you walk in. I know. So what's the play? Dante's smile was cold, empty of everything except lethal intent. The play is I keep him talking long enough for you to get in position. Then I kill everyone between me and my son. Then I kill Victor Russo. Then we go home. Boss, there could be 20 men in there. 30. You can't. I can. I will. I have to. Dante checked his gun one more time, chambering around. I've done worse with less. Ahead, through the rain-streaked windshield, Pier 9 emerged from the darkness. Abandoned warehouses looming like sleeping giants, industrial decay reclaiming what humans had left behind. One building stood out, lights flickering through broken windows, the door hanging open, spilling yellow light into the rain. An invitation. A trap. A killing floor. Dante stepped out of the SUV into the rain, and it felt like baptism. Or condemnation. He wasn't sure which anymore. Behind him, Carlos gripped his shoulder briefly. We'll be there, boss. 5 minutes after you go in. Just stay alive that long. 5 minutes. Dante nodded. I can do 5 minutes. He walked toward the warehouse alone, rain soaking through his jacket, gun heavy against his ribs. His son's face burned into his memory. I'm coming back, Mijo. I promise I'm coming back. The warehouse door yawned open before him like a mouth waiting to swallow him whole. Dante Moretti stepped inside. One way or another, this ended tonight. The warehouse waited like a tomb. Pier 9 sat at the edge of Chicago's industrial wasteland, a graveyard of abandoned dreams and rusted machinery. The buildings loomed like sleeping giants, their broken windows reflecting the storm clouds overhead. Rain fell steadily, turning the world into a watercolor of darkness and neon, puddles catching the distant glow of the city like fractured mirrors. Dante stood in front of the main entrance, rain streaming down his face, soaking through his jacket. The door hung open, spilling yellow light into the darkness, an invitation that felt like a mouth waiting to swallow him whole. He checked his watch. 11:59 p.m. 1 minute. Behind him, somewhere in the shadows, Carlos and his team were getting into position. North side. South side. East side. A triangle of death waiting to be activated. But they had to wait. Had to give Dante time to assess, to locate Liam, to confirm his son was alive. 5 minutes, they'd agreed. Dante had to survive 5 minutes alone. He'd survived worse. The smell hit him first when he stepped inside. Oil and rust, salt water and decay, the particular stench of places where humanity had given up and nature hadn't yet reclaimed. Water dripped from broken pipes overhead, the sound echoing in the vast space like a heartbeat. The warehouse stretched before him, concrete floor cracked and stained, support beams rising like iron trees, shadows pooling in every corner. And in the center, bathed in the harsh glow of portable work lights, stood Victor Russo. He wasn't alone. Dante counted 12 men, maybe more in the shadows. All armed. All positioned strategically, covering exits, high ground, and every angle of approach. Professional. Military precise. Victor had planned this carefully. And there, tied to a support beam behind Victor, was Liam. The boy's face was bruised, one eye swollen, lip split and bleeding. His clothes were torn, and even from across the warehouse, Dante could see him trembling. But his eyes were alert, focused, scanning the space just like Dante had taught him. Looking for exits, assessing threats, staying alive. "Daddy!" The word tore from Liam's throat, desperate and terrified, and it broke something inside Dante's chest. Not just the word itself, but the way Liam said it, like a prayer, like a lifeline, like Dante was the only hope he had left. Dante stumbled, just for a second, hand pressing against his chest where his heart threatened to break through his ribs. "I'm here, Mijo," he called back, voice steady despite everything. "I'm here." Victor Russo smiled, thin, cruel, enjoying every moment of this. He was smaller than Dante remembered, wearing an expensive suit that didn't quite hide the gun at his hip. His face was angular, sharp, the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled at anything that didn't involve someone else's suffering. "How touching," Victor said, circling Dante slowly like a predator examining prey. The great Dante Moretti, brought low by a child. Who would have thought? The man who took my territory, killed my men, embarrassed me in front of the entire city, reduced to begging because of a 12-year-old boy. He stopped directly in front of Dante, close enough that Dante could smell his cologne, expensive, cloying, and trying too hard. "You know what I want, Moretti." Dante's jaw clenched, but his voice came out calm. "Name it. Everything." Victor's smile widened. "Your territories on the south side. Your suppliers in Mexico. Your distribution network. Your connections with the police, the judges, and the politicians you own. Everything you've built over 20 years, hand it over to me on a silver fucking platter." He leaned closer, breath cold against Dante's ear. "Or I put a bullet in that boy's head and make you watch him die. Then I put one in you. Then I go find his pretty mother and show her what happens to women who fuck with the Russo family." Dante's hands clenched into fists, but he kept them at his sides. Behind him, he could feel it, the faintest shift in air pressure, the barest whisper of movement. Carlos and his team, getting into position. 4 minutes left. "And if I give you everything?" Dante asked quietly. "You let him go?" Victor pulled back, considering. "Maybe. Maybe I let him live. Maybe I just shoot him in the leg instead of the head. Make him remember this night every time he walks. Maybe isn't good enough. Then let's make it definite." Victor's hand moved toward his gun, casual, confident. "How about I shoot him right now, and you can watch? Would that be definite enough for you?" The warehouse fell silent except for water dripping and Liam's ragged breathing. Every man had his finger on a trigger. Every eye was watching. The slightest wrong move and bullets would fly. 3 minutes. "Wait," Dante said. "Wait." Victor laughed. "Wait for what? For your little army to get into position? You think I don't know they're out there? You think I didn't plan for this?" He gestured to his men. "I have 15 guys in here. 20 more outside. Snipers on the roofs. The moment your people make a move, this place becomes a meat grinder. And your son," he walked over to Liam, pressing his gun against the boy's temple. "Your son is the first one who dies." Liam whimpered but didn't cry out. His eyes stayed locked on Dante, and in them was something that looked almost like trust. Like he believed his father would save him. Dante had never felt more terrified in his entire life. "Let me see him," Dante said. "Let me confirm he's alive, unharmed. Then we talk terms. You're not in a position to negotiate." "Neither are you." Dante's voice dropped, taking on the edge that had made men fear him for 2 decades. "Because if you kill him, you have nothing. I'll burn your entire organization to the ground. I'll kill everyone you've ever loved. I'll make you watch them die screaming. And then, only then, will I kill you. So unless you want to start a war you can't win, you let me see my son." Victor stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your son? Is that what he is?" He grabbed Liam's hair, yanking his head back. "This piece of street trash is the great Dante Moretti's heir? What a disappointment. Let me see him." 2 minutes. Victor released Liam, stepping back with a theatrical bow. "Fine. Go ahead. Say your goodbyes. Make it touching. I do love a good father-son moment before I destroy it." Dante crossed the warehouse floor slowly, hands visible, showing he wasn't reaching for a weapon. Every step felt like walking through quicksand. His eyes never left Liam, cataloging injuries, assessing damage, confirming his son was alive. When he reached the support beam, he knelt in front of Liam, their faces level. "You okay, Mijo?" Liam nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was in the garden and someone grabbed me and—" "Shoo. Not your fault. None of this is your fault." Dante's hand cupped his son's face gently, thumb brushing away tears. "I'm going to get you out of here. I promise." "He's going to kill you," Liam whispered. "Maybe. But he's going to have to go through hell to do it." 1 minute. Behind them, Victor cleared his throat. "Very moving. Really, I'm almost crying. But time's up. Moretti. What's it going to be? Your empire, or your son?" Dante stood slowly, turning to face Victor. His hand moved to his hip, not to his gun, but to his phone. He pulled it out carefully, held it up so Victor could see. "I'm going to make a call. Transfer everything to you. Territories. Accounts. All of it. But I do it after my son walks out of here. That's the deal." "That's not. That's the only deal you're getting." Dante's voice was pure steel. "Because in about 30 seconds, this place is going to be full of holes, and you're going to be dead. So you can take my empire and let my son go, or you can die for nothing. Choose." Victor's eyes narrowed. His finger tightened on the trigger. And then everything exploded into chaos. The first gunshot came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Victor's head snapped toward the sound, east side, where Carlos and his team had just blown the loading bay door off its hinges. The explosion of sound and light turned the warehouse into a strobe-lit nightmare. Dante moved. 20 years of survival instincts kicked in faster than thought. He launched himself at Victor, tackling him to the ground before the man could pull his trigger. They hit the concrete hard, Dante's shoulder screaming in protest, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Victor's gun fired, once, twice, bullets going wide, sparking off metal beams overhead. The sound was deafening, drowning out even Liam's scream. Around them, the warehouse erupted into hell. Carlos and his team poured through the loading bay, weapons blazing. Muzzle flashes turned everything into snapshots. Men diving for cover, concrete exploding where bullets hit, blood spraying in dark arcs that looked black in the industrial lighting. Victor's men returned fire, the air filling with a metallic smell of gunpowder and copper. Someone screamed. Glass shattered. A body fell from a catwalk above, hitting the ground with a sound that would haunt Dante's dreams. But all of it, all the chaos, all the death, faded to background noise. The only thing Dante could focus on was the man beneath him. "You don't touch my son." Each word was punctuated by a blow. Dante's fist connected with Victor's jaw, once, twice, 3 times. Blood burst from the man's nose, spraying across Dante's knuckles. Victor bucked, trying to throw him off, but Dante had 20 pounds and pure rage on his side. "You think," Victor gasped, spitting blood, "you think you're better than me? I don't have to be better." Dante's hands found Victor's throat. "I just have to be willing to die for him. Are you willing to die for anything?" Victor's answer came in the form of cold steel. The knife appeared from nowhere, probably tucked in Victor's boot, probably his last resort. It slashed across Dante's ribs, cutting through fabric and skin like they were nothing. Pain exploded white-hot across his side, stealing his breath. For a second, Dante's grip loosened. That second was all Victor needed. He threw Dante off, scrambling backward, trying to bring his gun up. But Dante was already moving, ignoring the blood streaming down his side, ignoring the way his vision blurred at the edges. They grappled in the blood and glass, 2 predators trying to kill each other with hands and teeth and whatever they could reach. Victor's elbow connected with Dante's temple. Stars burst behind his eyes. He tasted copper. "Dante, behind you!" Carlos's warning came too late. The guard, one of Victor's men Dante hadn't seen, fired from somewhere to the left. The impact hit Dante's shoulder, spinning him around, his body jerking like a puppet with cut strings. He felt the bullet punch through muscle and bone, felt the hot blood start flowing immediately. But his hand was already moving to his holster, already drawing his weapon with training that was more instinct than thought. He fired. Once. The guard dropped, weapon clattering across concrete. The warehouse fell suddenly, impossibly silent. Smoke hung in the air like fog, catching the light in strange ways. Bodies littered the floor, some moving, some not. The smell of blood and gunpowder was so thick Dante could taste it. Victor Russo lay against a support beam, eyes wide and unblinking, a dark stain spreading across his expensive suit. His mouth worked like he wanted to say something, but only blood came out. Then even that stopped. Dante collapsed to his knees. The pain hit all at once, his ribs screaming where the knife had cut, his shoulder on fire where the bullet had torn through. Blood soaked his shirt, his jacket, pooling on the concrete beneath him. His vision swam, going gray at the edges. "Liam," he gasped. "Where's?" "I've got him, boss." Carlos appeared through the smoke, knife in hand, cutting through the ropes binding Liam to the support beam. The boy fell forward, and Carlos caught him, lowering him gently to the ground. "You're safe, kid. You're safe now." But Liam wasn't looking at Carlos. His eyes were locked on Dante, on his father kneeling in blood, struggling to stay conscious. "Dad!" The word tore from his throat. He broke free from Carlos, stumbling across the warehouse floor, slipping in blood that might have been his father's or someone else's. He dropped to his knees beside Dante, small hands pressing against the wound in his shoulder. "No, no, no. You promised. You promised you'd come back." Dante's hand, slick with blood, trembling, found his son's face. He cupped it gently, the way he'd wanted to for 12 years without knowing it. "I did come back," he whispered. His voice sounded far away, even to his own ears. See, I'm right here. You're bleeding. There's so much blood. It's okay, Mijo. It's okay. It wasn't okay. Dante knew that. He'd been shot before, knew what it felt like when the damage was manageable and when it wasn't. This wasn't. The shoulder wound alone might not kill him, but combined with the knife wound in his ribs, the blood loss. Carlos, he said quietly. The boy. Get him out of here. Already called it in, boss. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Not going to make it 2 minutes. Bullshit. Carlos dropped beside them, pressing his jacket against Dante's shoulder wound. You don't get to die. Not after all this. The warehouse door burst open. Pamela. She'd followed them. Of course she had. Dante should have known she would never just wait at home while her son was in danger. She ran across the carnage, her face white with horror, and for a moment Dante saw her as she'd been 13 years ago, young, beautiful, untouched by all of this. Then she was beside him, hands joining Liam's, pressing against wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding. No, no, no. Her voice broke. Dante, stay with me. Stay with us. Trying, he managed. But Pam, if I don't you dare. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Don't you dare leave us again. Not now. Not after. Dad, please. Liam's voice was small, terrified, 12 years old and losing the father he'd just found. Please don't die. I just got a dad. The words cut through the fog of pain. Dante's eyes focused on his son, really focused, and he saw himself there. In the dark eyes. In the stubborn set of the jaw. In the way Liam was trying so hard to be brave even though he was falling apart. Not going anywhere, Dante gasped. His hand tightened on Liam's. Promise. I promise. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Red and blue lights began to strobe through the broken windows, mixing with the smoke and blood. Carlos kept pressure on the wounds, jaw tight. Come on, boss. Come on. Just a little longer. Pamela's hand found Dante's free hand, gripping it like she could anchor him to life through sheer force of will. I can't do this without you. Liam can't do this without you. We need you. Dante's vision was fading, the edges going dark. But in the center, clear as daylight, he could see them. His family. The family he'd never known he had, never known he needed, never known he could have. My son, he whispered, eyes on Liam. First time saying it out loud. First time acknowledging the truth that had been written in their matching eyes from the beginning. You're my son. Liam nodded, tears streaming down his face, mixing with blood and smoke residue. Your son. And you're my dad. So you have to stay. Dads don't leave. They don't. I'm staying. The words cost him everything he had left. I'm staying. The paramedics burst through the door, equipment clattering, voices shouting medical terms Dante didn't understand. They pushed Pamela and Liam gently aside, their hands taking over where the families had been. Multiple gunshot wounds. Possible arterial bleed. Get the stretcher. Move, move, move. Dante felt himself being lifted, the world tilting sideways. Through the chaos, he kept his eyes locked on Liam, on his son watching him with terror and hope warring on his face. I love you, Mijo, Dante said. Or thought he said. He couldn't be sure if the words made it out or stayed trapped in his head. But somehow, Liam heard. I love you too, Dad. The last thing Dante saw before the darkness took him was his son's face, backlit by red and blue emergency lights, rain falling through the broken skylight like tears from heaven. And then nothing. The ambulance screamed through Chicago's streets, sirens wailing, lights painting the night in emergency colors. Inside, the paramedics worked frantically. IVs, pressure on wounds, machines beeping warnings about blood pressure and heart rate. Pamela sat in the corner, clutching Liam to her chest, both of them splattered with blood that wasn't theirs. Carlos had climbed in too, refusing to leave his boss, his friend, his brother in all but blood. "Is he going to die?" Liam whispered against his mother's shoulder. The paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes, looked up. "We're doing everything we can." It wasn't an answer. It was the absence of one. Outside, dawn was beginning to break over the city. The storm had passed, leaving everything washed clean and gleaming. A new day. But inside the ambulance, Dante Moretti's heart was slowing. "We're losing him," the paramedic shouted. "Charging the defibrillator." "Clear." Liam buried his face in his mother's shoulder, unable to watch. Pamela closed her eyes and prayed to a God she'd stopped believing in years ago. And Carlos, hard, dangerous Carlos who'd killed men without blinking, felt tears slide down his face. "Don't you dare," he whispered. "Don't you fucking dare, boss." The defibrillator charged. Everything hung in the balance. Life and death, separated by a heartbeat. The hospital waiting room smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Pamela sat in an orange plastic chair that had probably been uncomfortable for the last 20 years, Liam curled against her side, both of them still wearing yesterday's clothes. Blood, Dante's blood, had dried on their hands, under their fingernails, in the creases of their palms. Someone had brought them wet towels to clean up, but neither had moved to use them. Carlos stood by the window, watching dawn paint the city gold, his phone pressed to his ear as he gave quiet orders to people Pamela didn't want to know about. Cleaning crews. Lawyers. Whatever you called the people who made warehouse shootouts disappear. The clock on the wall ticked. 6:47 a.m. Dante had been in surgery for 6 hours and 13 minutes. "Mom!" Liam's voice was hoarse from crying. "What if he doesn't?" "Don't," she interrupted, pulling him closer. "Don't say it. Don't even think it." But she was thinking it. Had been thinking it since the ambulance doors closed, since she'd watched them wheel Dante away down sterile hallways, since a doctor with tired eyes had said words like, "critical condition," and "next few hours are crucial," and "you should prepare yourselves." She'd lost him once by choice. She couldn't lose him again by fate. The door to the surgical wing opened. A doctor emerged, older, gray-haired, still in scrubs splattered with blood. Everyone in the waiting room turned to look at him, but his eyes found Pamela's immediately. She stood, legs shaking. "Is he?" "He's alive." The doctor's voice was careful, measured. "The surgery went as well as could be expected. We removed the bullet from his shoulder, repaired the arterial damage. The knife wound to his ribs was deep but didn't hit any major organs. He's lucky. Another inch to the left and we'd be having a very different conversation." Pamela's knees nearly gave out. Liam caught her arm, steadying her. "Can we see him?" the boy asked. "He's in recovery now. Still unconscious. It'll be several hours before he wakes up, and when he does, he'll be in considerable pain. But yes," the doctor's expression softened, "you can see him. Room 347. 3rd floor." They were already moving before he finished speaking. The ICU was quieter than the waiting room, if that was possible. The only sounds were machines beeping steadily, nurses moving softly between rooms, the hiss and click of ventilators breathing for people who couldn't breathe for themselves. Room 347 sat at the end of the hallway, door slightly ajar. Pamela pushed it open slowly, afraid of what she'd find. Dante lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him. Tubes ran from his arms to 4 bags hanging like translucent fruit. Monitors tracked his heartbeat, his breathing, his blood pressure. Bandages covered his shoulder and wrapped around his ribs, white against his olive skin. But his chest rose and fell. Steady. Alive. Liam crossed to the bed without hesitation, pulling a chair close, taking his father's hand in both of his. The boy's hands were so small against Dante's, child-sized against the scarred knuckles of a man who'd spent his life fighting. "I'm here, Dad," Liam whispered. "I'm right here." Pamela stood in the doorway, watching them, her son and the man she'd loved and left and somehow found again. Carlos appeared beside her, silent presence. "He's going to be okay," Carlos said quietly. "It wasn't a question." "You sound certain." "I am. Boss has survived worse. Russian mob in 09. That thing with the Mexicans in 12. He's too stubborn to die." He paused. "And now he has something to live for. That changes everything." Pamela looked at him. "What happens now? With everything?" "You mean his empire?" Carlos's smile was grim. "Already in motion. I'm taking over day-to-day operations. Legitimate businesses only. No more territorial wars, no more violence. Boss made me promise before we went to the warehouse. Said if he survived, he was done. If he didn't, I was to keep you and the kids safe no matter what. He planned for both outcomes. He always does. Does. Carlos shook his head. Going to take some getting used to, boss not being boss anymore. Will they let him walk away? The other families. They will if they're smart. Because the alternative is me, and I'm nowhere near as reasonable as he is. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a promise. The hours blurred together. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, adjusting medications, speaking in soft tones. A doctor visited, examined the wounds, declared everything progressing well. Carlos brought coffee that nobody drank and sandwiches that went uneaten. Pamela sat in the window seat, watching the city wake up below them. Liam never left Dante's side, hand still holding his father's, as if he could keep him tethered to life through sheer willpower. Night fell again. Then morning came. The third sunrise since the warehouse. And finally, movement. Dante's fingers twitched against Liam's palm. The boy's head snapped up, hope flaring in his eyes. "Dad!" Dante's eyelids fluttered. Once. Twice. Then opened slowly, painfully, revealing dark eyes that took several seconds to focus. "Liam!" His voice was a rasp, throat raw from the breathing tube they'd removed hours ago. "I'm here." The boy leaned closer, tears streaming down his face. "I'm right here." Dante's gaze moved slowly around the room. White walls, machines, sunlight through blinds. Understanding dawned gradually. "Hospital. Yeah. You're okay. I'm fine. You saved me. You saved me and almost died and..." Liam's voice broke. "Don't ever do that again." Dante's lips curved slightly, something that might have been a smile if it wasn't so painful. "I'll try. Trying's not good enough. You have to promise." Okay. Dante's hand squeezed his son's weakly. I promise. Pamela rose from the window seat, crossing to the bed. When Dante's eyes found hers, something passed between them, relief and regret and 13 years of unspoken words all compressed into a single look. You kept your promise, she said softly. Always will. He tried to sit up, winced, gave up. Victor. Dead. Carlos handled everything. The police think it was a gang war. Nobody's looking at you. Good. His eyes closed briefly, then opened again. Pam, I meant what I said. What I told Carlos before. I'm done. I'm getting out. You're still recovering. We don't have to talk about. Yes, we do. His voice was stronger now, more certain. I've spent 20 years building an empire I don't want. Making money I don't need. Surviving wars that don't matter. I'm done. Carlos takes over. I transfer the legitimate businesses to his name. And he looked at Liam. I figure out how to be a father. Do you even know how? Pamela asked gently. No. But I'll learn. His eyes moved back to hers. Will you teach me? The question hung there, heavy with implications. Teaching him to be a father meant staying. Meant building something together. Meant trusting him not just with her heart, but with their son's future. I don't know if I can do this again, she whispered. Live in your world. Then I'll leave my world. For him. For you. He paused. If you'll let me. Liam looked between his parents, 12 years old, and suddenly understanding that this moment was bigger than just his father surviving. This was about whether they could be a family. Whether the broken pieces could be put back together. Mom, he said quietly. Give him a chance. Pamela's eyes filled with tears. She looked at her son, so young, so hopeful, so ready to forgive. Then at Dante, battered, broken, sincere in a way she'd never seen him. One chance, she said finally. You mess up, you fall back into old patterns, you put him in danger. I won't. You don't know that. No. But I'll spend every day trying not to. That's all I can promise. That I'll try. She reached out slowly, her hand finding his. Their fingers laced together, and it felt like coming home after a long, cold exile. One chance, she repeated. One chance, he agreed. A week later, Dante sat up in bed without help for the first time. 2 weeks, and he walked the hospital hallway with only a slight limp. 3 weeks, and the doctors cleared him to go home. Carlos brought the car around. Not the armored SUV, but a regular sedan. Normal. Anonymous. Liam helped his father into the back seat, careful of the still healing wounds. Pamela slid in beside Dante, her hand finding his automatically now, like they'd never been apart. Where to, boss? Carlos asked from the driver's seat, then caught himself. Sorry. Old habit. Home, Dante said. Then paused. Actually, no. Take us to the park. The one on lakefront. Liam's never seen the lake. Have you, Mijo? The boy shook his head, eyes wide. Then that's where we start. Dante squeezed Pamela's hand. The life we should have had. The one we're going to have now. The car pulled away from the hospital, leaving behind the smell of antiseptic and the machines that had kept Dante alive. Ahead, the city spread before them, not a battlefield anymore, but a place where a father could walk with his son by the water. Where a family could start again. Where a man who'd built an empire of fear could learn to build something better. Love. 3 months later, the world looked different. Sunlight streamed through the mansion's tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like tiny stars in the golden air. The house that had once felt like a fortress, all sharp edges and cold marble and armed shadows, now felt like something else. Something warmer. Something like home. In the garden behind the mansion, Liam kicked a soccer ball across perfectly manicured grass, laughing as Carlos dove dramatically to block it and missed by a mile. "Come on, Carlos. My grandma could have saved that," the boy shouted, grinning. "Your grandma doesn't have 2 bad knees and a herniated disc," Carlos shot back, but he was smiling too. On the patio, Dante watched them play. His arm was still in a sling, the shoulder healed but not quite ready for full use, and sometimes, when the weather changed, his ribs ached where the knife had cut. But he was alive. Breathing. Here. Pamela emerged from the house carrying 2 cups of coffee, settling into the chair beside him. Her hand found his automatically, fingers lacing together like they'd been doing it for years instead of months. "You kept your promise," she said softly, watching their son play. "Which one?" Dante's lips curved slightly. "I've made a lot of promises lately." "All of them." She turned to look at him. "You're still here. Still alive. Still trying. Always will." He squeezed her hand. "Carlos is handling things well. Better than I did, probably. Turns out I was terrible at being a crime lord." "You were terrifying at being a crime lord. That's different than being good at it." He was quiet for a moment. "I signed the final papers yesterday. Everything legitimate goes to Carlos. The rest, the territories, the violence, all of it, I'm out. Completely out." Pamela studied his face, searching for regret or doubt. She found neither. "What will you do? Be a father. Figure out how to be normal." He looked at her. "Think you can teach me? I've been teaching you for 3 months. You're a slow learner. Then I guess you're stuck with me for a while." The words hung between them, weighted with hope and possibility. She leaned her head against his good shoulder, and they sat like that, watching their son play in the sunshine. "Dante! Mom, come play." Liam waved excitedly from the garden. "Your son's calling," Pamela said. "Our son." Dante stood slowly, wincing slightly, then offered her his good hand. "Come on. Let's go be terrible at soccer together." They walked down the patio steps together, into the garden where their son waited, where Carlos was already arguing about whether the last goal counted, where the afternoon stretched before them like a gift. Dante was halfway across the grass when he noticed it, a white envelope on the ground near the patio chairs, partially hidden by a potted plant. He hadn't seen it fall, hadn't heard anyone approach. He picked it up slowly. No return address. No postage. Hand delivered. "What is it?" Pamela asked, noticing him stop. Dante opened the envelope. Inside, a single piece of paper. One line, typed in block letters. "The throne is never truly empty." The old instincts kicked in immediately. Scan the perimeter, assess threats, identify exits. His hand moved to his hip where a gun used to rest. But there was nothing there. He'd stopped carrying months ago. "Dante!" Pamela's voice was tight with worry. "What does it say?" He stared at the note, feeling the weight of his old life pressing against the new one he was trying to build. Someone out there still saw him as a threat, or a target, or an opportunity. The empire he'd built couldn't just be walked away from, not cleanly, not completely. There would always be someone who wanted what he'd had. Someone who wanted to test him, challenge him, and drag him back into the darkness he'd fought so hard to leave behind. For a long moment, Dante stood frozen, the note trembling slightly in his hand. Then he heard it, Liam's laughter, bright and pure, floating across the garden like music. "Dad, you coming or what?" Dante looked at the note one more time. Read the threat. Felt the old rage stirring, the old need to respond, to dominate, to show them all what happened when you threatened Dante Moretti. Then he crumpled the paper in his fist. Let them come, he thought. I spent my whole life building an empire of fear. Now I have something worth more than power. He had a son who called him Dad. A woman who'd given him a second chance he didn't deserve. A future that didn't involve blood and bullets and sleeping with one eye open. He tossed the crumpled note into a nearby trash bin and turned back to his family. "Coming me, Joe," he called, walking toward the sunshine, toward his son's laughter. Pamela watched him, seeing the choice being made in real time. The old Dante would have called Carlos immediately, would have mobilized an army, and would have turned this threat into a war. This Dante, the new one, the one still learning how to be a father, chose differently. She smiled. For the first time in 13 years, a real smile that reached her eyes and stayed there. "You sure about this?" she asked as he reached her. "No," he admitted. "But I'm sure about him. About you. About this." He gestured to the garden, the house, the life they were building. "That's enough." They joined the soccer game together. Dante moved carefully, protecting his healing ribs, but he moved. He played. He laughed when Liam scored a goal and Carlos threw his hands up in mock defeat. At one point, Liam crashed into Dante, wrapping his arms around his father's waist in celebration. Dante caught him, careful of his shoulder but holding tight, and lifted his son off the ground. "We won, Dad. Did you see? We won. I saw." Dante's voice was thick with emotion he didn't bother hiding anymore. "You're fast. So fast. I get that from you, right? Mom says I have your eyes and your speed." "Yeah, me, Joe. You get that from me." Liam pulled back slightly, looking up at his father's face. "Are you crying?" "No." Dante wiped his eyes quickly. "Allergies. We're outside. Pollen. It's November. Tough pollen." Liam grinned, not believing him for a second, not caring. He hugged his father again, and Dante held him, breathing in the smell of grass and sunshine and childhood. This was power. Not territories or weapons or men who feared your name. This, holding your son, making your woman smile, choosing peace over violence. This was the only power that mattered. Later that evening, as the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the family gathered on the patio. Dante sat between Pamela and Liam, his good arm around his son, Pamela's hand in his. The crumpled note sat in the trash, forgotten. The threats from his old life still existed. They always would. Men like Dante didn't get clean breaks, didn't get to walk away without consequences. There would be other notes, other challenges, and other people who wanted to test whether he was truly done. But sitting there, watching the sunset with his family, Dante realized something. He'd spent 38 years making the wrong choices, building the wrong empire, fighting the wrong wars. Maybe, just maybe, he could spend the next 38 making the right ones. "What are you thinking about?" Pamela asked softly. "That I'm the luckiest man alive. You almost died 3 months ago." "I know. That's why I'm lucky. Because I lived. Because I got this." He gestured to all of it, The sunset, the boy falling asleep against his side, the woman who'd given him a second chance. Liam yawned, his head heavy against Dante's shoulder. Dad! Yeah, me, Joe. I'm glad you're my dad, even if you're bad at soccer. Dante laughed, a real laugh, the kind he couldn't remember making in years. I'm glad you're my son, even if you're a smartass. Language, Pamela chided, but she was smiling. Sorry, even if you're a smart aleck. That's worse, Dad. Just say ass. Liam. Pamela tried to sound stern and failed. The boy grinned sleepily, eyes already closing. Love you guys. Love you too, they said together. As darkness fell and the city lights began to twinkle below them, Dante looked out over the estate that had once been his fortress and saw it differently now. Not as a prison or a castle or a monument to his power, just as home, where a father could sit with his son and watch the sunset, where a man could hold the hand of the woman he'd never stopped loving, where the past didn't have to define the future. In the garden below, wind caught the crumpled note in the trash bin, lifting it, carrying it away into the darkness. The threat still existed. The danger was real. But tonight, there was only peace. And sometimes, Dante thought, peace was the bravest choice of all. Some wars you win with bullets. Others, you win by walking away. And some, the most important ones, you win by simply showing up. Every day. For the people you love. For the life you choose over the one you were born into. For the second chances you don't deserve but fight like hell to earn anyway. Coming, me, Joe? Pamela said softly, as Liam had fully fallen asleep. Let's get him to bed. Dante lifted his son carefully, cradling him against his chest despite the protest from his healing shoulder. Liam murmured something incoherent and settled deeper into sleep. Together, they walked inside. A family. Imperfect. Complicated. Hard one. But theirs. And as Dante tucked his son into bed that night, watching the boy's peaceful face in the dim light, he made one more promise. Not to be perfect. Not to never make mistakes. Just to be there. Every morning, every night, every moment in between. To be the father he'd never had. The man he'd never thought he could be. The life he'd chosen over everything else. He kissed Liam's forehead gently. Sweet dreams, me, Joe. Then he walked out, leaving the door slightly open, light from the hallway spilling into the room. Because fathers don't leave. They stay. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. And as Dante found Pamela waiting for him in the hallway, her hand reaching for his, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was finally home. If this story touched you, let us know where you're watching from and hit subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for being part of our storytelling family.